How do we find the good in things when things get, well, crazy? Now that we're more than 2 years into this pandemic madness, many of us have the lucky privilege to be able to step back and look at those early days in a different light. In that madness, are we able to find the good in those moments in our world? Today, I talk about that with one of the many people that went home during that time and what they learned about themselves and life. Hi, I'm Matt Hayes, and this is episode number 3 of Meet a Stranger. It was a lovely spring evening in New York City when I had a chat with stranger number 3, a woman who follows my alter ego Twitter account as a world-famous Christmas tree. If you know, you know. We met up to chat in person with words and not in just 240-character messages. As humans, in real life. Remember how we used to do that? She moved to New York City from the farmlands of Oklahoma many years ago. But like thousands of others at the beginning of the pandemic, she went back home when everything in life was so uncertain. I was intrigued by that journey she went on because as a fellow Midwesterner who moved to New York many years ago, I always found it difficult to be able to return home because moving away can change you. And when you go back, sometimes you see your old stomping grounds and the people in your life not exactly the same way. I wonder if she felt the same when she went back for such a long time. What was it like for someone to return home during that time? Take a listen. Before the pandemic, you lived in New York City for how long?
8 years.
And then the pandemic hit, and then what happened?
And then wound up back in Oklahoma for what I thought was a brief visit and turned into 10 months of can't go anywhere, can't travel anywhere. It was a surprise.
Was that really your first time spending a lot of time back home in Oklahoma after living in New York City for so long?
Yeah, that would have been probably the longest stretch since high school.
What was that like? There must have been a bit of almost culture shock from going from living, even though you grew up in Oklahoma, but when you live in New York, you change, you become a different person. You've moved on, you've done something different. What was that like going back into that environment for so long?
Yeah, no, culture shock would be a decent way of putting it. It fell during, following part of it leading into an election year definitely made life all the more stressful. My dog got really good at peeing on Trump yard signs, though. You had to give him credit for that. You started to look at some neighbors a little bit differently in a way you didn't think about when you lived there and you were younger and more naive. But there was a lot of really beautiful parts to it, too. I became like a very nerdy Route 66 explorer. Oklahoma's got the longest stretch of navigable Route 66 that still exists. Mm-hmm. So did a lot of that. There are a lot of really good things to explore and visit that you can do without worrying about running into any other people, which is not the case in New York. So
right.
there's a plus to that. Had to learn how to drive again. Yeah. Hadn't done that for a very long time.
So then when you came back to the city after 10 months, what was that experience like? What was that whole feeling just like coming back after 10 months away and going through all of that?
I found myself really missing rocking out to music in my car. You forgot the beauty of that. Yeah. That, not quite the same with the earbuds on the subway. But yeah. No, it was good. You miss that kind of collective experience. Once you get to the point where it didn't feel hugely stressful and anxiety inducing anymore, then it was nice to be back around that.
Was there anything that you brought back from that time when you came back here and started, living life here again moving forward?
Probably. When I went to Oklahoma, I think I took 4 items of clothing and 20 books. And then that pile of 20 books expanded probably threefold. So I had to bring all those back. There's no room for that in my apartment, but what can you do?
Did you not during that time sit there and go, maybe it's time for a Kindle?
Never. Sacrilege. Heaven forbid.
I know it's easy to find the negative in what's happened over the last few years, but maybe we can find some little good things. Maybe reconnecting with people, reconnecting with home. And maybe that's stuff we can take with us as life moves on. Easier said than done, I'm well aware of it, and not everybody is as lucky as we are. But I love how she's able to look back at that time she spent back home so fondly. Thanks to stranger number 3 for the chat, and thanks for all of your support. And thank you for taking time to meet a stranger today. You can find us at all of those big evil social media channels at Go Meet a Stranger. I'm Matt Hayes. The next time you're somewhere and there's someone standing next to you, maybe take a second and say hello. Maybe meet a stranger. You'll never know what you learn. How do we find